everyone. So this is my 22-week pregnancy update. Not a whole lot has changed. My stomach does feel a little bit harder. The skin feels a little bit tighter, and that's apparently quite normal for entering your third trimester. The baby is just growing and your skin is just stretching. So at some point the skin is just going to be stretched out a little bit. So I'm not really concerned about that. Since there hasn't been much going on, I figured I'd talk a little bit about the baby moving. I really didn't feel the baby moving until about 19 weeks. I hadn't really realized it until after I went to the doctor for my 20-week appointment. And she said, you know, if you feel like fingers brushing against the inside of your stomach, that's most likely the baby moving around. Well, to me it didn't feel like little fingers brushing against your stomach. To me it felt like tiny little spider legs, like tarantula legs, just crawling across the inside of your stomach. So that was a little bit weird. I had originally chalked it up to some weird pregnancy thing like indigestion or bloating or gas or whatever, which is quite common in pregnancy, but it turns out it was the baby. I really didn't feel her moving until about 20 weeks. And that's when most people do feel the baby. And I think that's when most of us realize that's what the baby feels like. So what it felt like to me was maybe a little boof. A little boof here, a little boof there, every once in a while. I really felt her this week. And she's mostly active at night around 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. I feel the first stirrings of a little punch or a kick. Then around 10:30, 11, which is when I go and lie down to sleep, that's when she seems to be the most active. Now, it could just be that I'm lying down and I'm concentrating on it more, but it's most likely she doesn't like the fact that I'm lying down on my back. She doesn't like it when I lie on my side either, and there's no way I'm sleeping on my stomach at this point. So she just has to kind of get used to it. That, or she is a serious night owl, which doesn't surprise me at all because I was a bit of a night owl when I was younger, and so is my mother. My mother is still a bit of a night owl. Hubs is the one that gets me to bed at a reasonable time and gets me up at a reasonable time. Especially on the weekends, he doesn't really let me sleep in until all hours of the day, which is how I naturally would wake up. But he wakes me up at a decent time, so I'm not sleeping in most of the morning. I'm pretty sure later on in the pregnancy, she's probably going to keep me up quite a bit because she's so active at night. And she's a bit of a kicker. Like when we went and got our first sonogram, her legs were totally kicking, and then the second sonogram, her legs were kicking again. So I'm pretty sure she's just going to be like a kickboxer or a soccer player or something. And if she's not, that's fine. But right now, I am totally expecting her to keep me awake at all hours of the night during my third trimester because she is so active at night. But it'll only be a couple more months and then she'll be born, so I can deal with that. So I wanted to talk about the baby moving because I was looking on the internet and some people were worried that they couldn't feel their baby at 16, 17 weeks, which is quite normal. I didn't feel it then either. I really did feel it around 20, 21 weeks, which is when I really feel the baby moving. It alleviates a lot of anxiety, I know, because we're always worried that something's going on, something's happening, but now that I can feel the baby, some of that anxiety has been relieved, but there's other anxieties that come along with being pregnant as well. You always kind of worry that things will go wrong, but you know, I think that's kind of natural, especially when it's your first child. So last night she was kicking quite a bit, so I had my husband put his hand on my stomach, and he didn't feel anything for a while, but she started kicking like nobody's business, and eventually he did feel a couple of kicks. And he said, oh, that's nothing. That's like a little blow of air. But I'm like, that's on the outside where you can feel it. It's different on the inside. Can you imagine what it's like on the inside if you can feel on the outside? You don't really know what it's like. It's not in your stomach. But he thought it was hilarious, and he was actually quite excited. So at 22 weeks, your husband can feel the baby kicking. He doesn't have to press on your stomach at all. He just needs to just rest it on your stomach. And he can feel it kick if your baby's moving at that right time in the right place. So other than that, I'm doing great, and I will keep you posted if anything changes. Have a good evening. Bye.